spirit, we are honored to introduce our next speaker, a distinguished British Member of Parliament and a friend to many of us, who flew across the Atlantic to be with us this afternoon, John Mann. As a veteran member of the British Labour Party, John has provided a consistent and principled voice against anti-Semitism. His moral clarity is particularly notable, given the growing number of reports on anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism within his own party. And in the spirit of thinking globally and acting locally, John's work crosses borders to convince others of the importance of local action. We were honored to host him at the AJC Berlin-Raymer Institute in March, when he helped galvanize more than 100 parliamentarians from dozens of countries for a conference in Berlin highlighting ways for politicians to help stem new manifestations of this age-old hatred. In April, when former London Mayor Ken Livingstone made comments trivializing the Holocaust, John rightly accused him to his face of being a Hitler apologist. Stalwart and indomitable, John refuses to let us descend into a topsy-turvy Alice in Wonderland world, where up is down and right is wrong. No, John speaks courageously and fearlessly, helping protect the human dignity that we all strive to defend. It is for these reasons that AJC honored John with our prestigious Jan Karski Award, named for the Polish wartime hero, at our Global Forum in 2009, quote, for his visionary leadership in fighting hatred and promoting mutual understanding. We at AJC are indeed fortunate to have such a strong-willed, determined, and skilled advocate and partner leading the way in the struggle against anti-Semitism. No matter how turbulent the world, we can be certain of this constant: John Mann will never swerve from speaking the truth and unmasking anti-Semitism in whatever guise it appears. We share his unshakable conviction that democracy is only safe when Jewish security is assured. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to a moral giant, John Mann.
Thank you, Deidre, for a very kind, overly kind introduction, and for the AJC from dragging me from the mountains of Scotland, the only place in Europe with fine weather. I brought it with me today, so tomorrow may be more gloomy here, I'm afraid, when I return to London. And thank you, Mayor Warren. Thank you, all the mayors who've signed the pledge. That is a major, major initiative, and we need far more mayors doing so. Of course, there's one ex-mayor who will not be doing so. When I challenged Mr Livingstone, unfortunately, he'd organised a press conference. There were 5 TV camera crews present, and I inadvertently stumbled into him. What he'd said half an hour before had angered me, and it was literally 30 minutes before on the radio. He'd said that Hitler was a Zionist, and he proved the fact by saying that in 1932 the Nazi manifesto that got them elected in Germany specified support for Zionism. Livingstone is a liar. And it doesn't need me to say that. Read the Nazi manifesto of 1932. He's offering a free meal for anyone who can disprove his lie. The Nazi manifesto was unambiguous, as was a little book in 1925 called Mein Kampf, which specified what Hitler said about Zionism and why Hitler hated the concept that the Jewish people could ever have the powerhouse of their own state. It is a grotesque twisting round of history to suggest that Hitler and the Nazis were Zionists, and yet this man continues to this day to perpetuate this grotesque lie. Hardly a surprise he's not a signatory, but then he can't be. Losers can't be mayors. Only winners can be mayors. He lost in 2008, he lost in 2012, he lost with me in the debate once, twice, 3 times a loser. But I'm proud that my party mayor, the Muslim with the largest mandate anywhere in the free world, Sadiq Khan, who on his first act as the mayor, having won by 300,000 votes in London, his first act was to go with the chief rabbi to a major Jewish communal event. I am proud that he signed Mayor Warren's pledge. You know, I could have walked on by when I stumbled into Livingstone and gave him a piece of my mind, and I apologise for the little bit of the language first broadcast, but not for the rest. I could have walked on by. It's the anniversary today of the Americans and the British sending my constituents and many more to their deaths on the Normandy beaches. Too many people walked on by in the 1930s when they should have stood and said and spoken out. And you know, we have a tradition. We have a tradition in my family. I bought my little book. I bought it because it's a good sales pitch for this conference, because my speech to the conference is in the book. Essays, speeches and other writings on anti-Semitism, and particularly to the students and the youth and those training them, it's far more important than the arrogance of me putting my speech in. There is a plethora of speeches, mainly by non-Jews, on anti-Semitism. There's also an important one to my own party from 1943 by a man called Maurice Rossetti, representing the Labour Zionists who are part of my party from the very beginning. Rossetti. Sympathy is not enough, was what he said in 1943 to my conference. Sympathy is not enough. Walking on by is not good enough. We have a tradition in my area. Let me tell you about my area. It's not just me that comes from there. Robin Hood, you may have heard of. He didn't walk on by when the sheriff was robbing my people. John Cartwright, you've not heard of John Cartwright, I live in his house. Well, he's been dead a long time, but he was the creator of the Great Reform Act. That means, to all of you, universal suffrage. The first time that that concept got into play. The foundation of British and American democracy, of Western democracy. That's part of our tradition. And John Wesley and the Methodists and the Quakers, who originate from my small locality. So we've a tradition of not walking on by. But let me ask for your help. Every day, today I looked, the internet, things said to me from the right extremists, from the left extremists, and today's a brilliant example. left-wing extremists retweeting right-wing, white, American supremacist, Holocaust-denying liars in support of their so-called support for the Palestinians, alleged support. The right and the left mingling in from the extremes on the internet, emboldened by the internet. We, you, all of us, are not doing enough in countering this on the internet. We are surrendering that space too much to them. It emboldens them, it empowers them. This small clique of lunatics, put them together across the world, and does it matter to them if the abuser of me is someone mad from the west of the US, or someone mad from London, or someone mad from Germany? It makes no difference at all. They pile on in support of one another. It magnifies extremism. We need to be more active in fighting and countering against them. We're playing too much by the old rules. We need to play by the modern rules of communication. These people with their filth are taking too much comfort from our laziness in dealing with the new technologies, and we need people, young people, leading the way in doing this. There's one final thing. It's fascinating. Mayor Warren of Massachusetts. Who else came from my little locality of 100,000 people? Well, in 2020, it's the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower Pilgrims who come from my constituency, my locality. And when they went to America, the Mayflower Compact became the basis of the American Constitution. Perhaps there's something in the water in the Bassett Law area. But they did not walk on by. And that compact, those values, that Great Reform Act of 1832, those traditions of non-conformism, they have been the bedrock of our shared values. The United Kingdom, the United States, Western democracies, they're what we stand for. They're what we fight for. They're what we believe in. They are what makes us what we are. And therefore, again, Massachusetts and my little tiny area, when we celebrate in 2020, we're celebrating the creation of our concept of Western democracy, of our values. And that says, my committee, people in my area, we will never, ever walk on by. Thank you for the invitation. Make sure others do the same.